Looking, is that right?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Peace and blessings, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone, to our Palestine teach-in webinar, Mental Health During the Gaza Crisis, with Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf-Rope. Please make sure to write down your questions in the question and answer chat box. I have the honor of introducing our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf-Rope. Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf-Rope was born in Iraq but lived in the United States most of her adult life. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology and obtained her license in marriage, family, and child therapy. Currently working in her private practice and at Kaiser Permanente Mental Health in the Los Angeles area, and she is recently retired. She served as a commissioner on the Board of Behavioral Sciences Examiners for the MFCC candidate to be licensed. She worked as an assistant head immigration officer at the Canadian Embassy. She was awarded a lifetime teaching credential as adjunct professor of psychology at Phillips Academy and Glendale College. She held a position as a school psychologist for 3 New Horizons school campuses. She conducted research on the impact of social inhibition in Arab cultures on the development of mother-child attachment. She published many papers and articles in various journals and newsletters. She devoted her life to the humanitarian causes on national and international arenas on issues like post-traumatic stress, conflict resolution, as well as a mediator in employer-employee disputes. She conducted multidimensional groups, depression, anxiety, stress management, women, grief, boundaries, and couple therapy. She presented on topics such as trauma disorder, the effect of stress on physical and psychological levels, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression disorder. And she participated in delegations, lecturing, training, and volunteering. She is affiliated with many organizations that allowed her to work on many humanitarian projects around the world, such as People to People Ambassadors, Russia and Australia lecturing on the plight of the Iraqi citizens dealing with the tragic effects of the sanctions, South Africa participating in the Truth and Reconciliation Synopsis working with victims of apartheid. She is also affiliated with Doctors for Social Responsibilities to Iraq during the sanctions, joining the Pencils for Peace initiative and delivering much-needed medicine. She worked with United Nations Relief Committee to address the effects of the sanctions on the Iraqi people. She volunteered at the Red Cross aviation disasters, Hurricane Katrina victims, debriefed airline staff and passengers during the 9/11 disaster, and assisted in the Alaska airline crash for NINZIC debriefing. She is also affiliated with Common Bond Institute USA, Harmony Institute of Russia, IMC International Medical Committee, AAMA, Arab American Medical Association, IMSA, Iraqi Medical Sciences Association, and Humanity Psychology Association. She appeared on the Oprah show Good Morning America and on many media broadcasts, sharing her passion around the world to enlighten others about the humanitarian plight and the suffering nationally and internationally. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf.
Thank you, Sister Erica, for your kind introduction. I'm truly honored to be here addressing such a vital and timely topic on the crisis of Palestine and its impact on our mental health and well-being. And I thank the Islamic Education Center of Southern California for providing such a valuable webinar. Thank you. So my presentation today, it will be, I will define what constitutes a trauma. What does it mean when we are in a crisis? Definition of trauma. Definition of a new terminology, which is the second-hand trauma. I will also cover the impact of this trauma on our mind and our body. how it affects our emotions, our thinking, and our behaviors. I will also share with you statistics of people who have been afflicted by the crisis. I will also define and talk about the symptoms of a trauma and the crisis that befall upon us. I will talk about what are the sources of stress that we are feeling today, how to manage them effectively, as well I will offer some tools for healing journey. At the end, if I have time, I would like to provide subligation, prayers, and dua. So I will start with the definition of crisis. Crisis means it's a state of feeling, an internal experience of confusion and anxiety to the point where that formerly successful coping mechanism fails us. It doesn't work anymore. And an ineffective decision and behavior take their place. As a result, the person in crisis may feel confused, they may feel vulnerable, anxious, fear, angry, guilty, hopeless, and helpless. That's as far as the definition of trauma, of crisis, I'm sorry. The definition of trauma, it is the lasting emotional response to that often results from living through a distressing event, through living a crisis, for instance. Experiencing a traumatic event can harm a person's sense of safety, sense of self, sense of self-confidence, and it affects the ability to regulate emotions and navigate relationships. The second-hand trauma definition is it's a genuine disorder that affects individual who did not, again, I emphasize, who did not witness the actual trauma themselves firsthand, but were exposed to it in other ways, such as the professional, we see the clergy, the therapist, counselor, emergency personnel, they are experiencing secondhand trauma. Also, people who are familiar with someone who has been impacted by the crisis or by the trauma, or if they are aware or witnessing repeated exposure through the media. Because what happened, passively, we take in their stress and we experience the overload of stress through them, even though we have not witnessed it firsthand. The reason I'm covering all this, and especially covering the statistic, because of the prevalence of people who are traumatized nowadays due to the crises of what's going on. And this one defined by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. I'll share with you the statistic. 61% of men and 51% of women reported at least one traumatic event in their lifetime. 6% out of the US population will have post-traumatic stress disorder, which we call PTSD. That is 6 out of 100 people. More than 5% of frontline healthcare workers during the COVID pandemic were traumatized. More than 67% of healthcare workers who were exposed to patient death are also traumatized. Roughly 1/3 of people, including those who are under the age of 17, reported experiencing some form of indirect trauma exposure that I define it as secondhand trauma. Community being exposed to terror events, be it natural or man-made disaster, tend to affect the whole community the same way at the same time as we are experiencing the crisis of Palestine right now. So let me ask you some question that may define how are you feeling or whether you have any of these symptoms. So have you been feeling or saying to yourself, you know what, I don't feel like I am myself anymore? Refusing invitation, glued to the TV, watching endless report repeated in news. Do you find yourself when you're eating or relaxing or sleeping, you feel this pang of guilt attack? How can I have fun or relax or eat when my beloved are suffering? We call that the survivor guilt. You notice that others around you walking on eggshells, trying to avoid you getting upset or angry. Your sleep has been disturbed. Either you're sleeping a lot or you have insomnia. Many of us are feeling anxious, but we don't understand why am I feeling. We don't know what the cause of the anxiety. Also, you're feeling hyper and jumpy. I had a chance to go to the ATM, and I find myself really hyper aroused, looking around to see who is around me. And I wasn't the only one. There were other people also leaving their car lights on, looking around and hyper and just standing in front of the ATM. Also, another feature that I found, highly self-critical. Your self-esteem and self-confidence, where before you trust yourself, right now it's just you find yourself criticizing you and the people around you as well. You need to be perfectionist. You cannot tolerate your own mistakes or the other people's mistakes, and that's not like you. You find you're exhausted. It's very difficult to make a decision, as I said earlier. Your concentration is very poor. You go into a room and you forgot what you're there for. Or you prayed, did I pray 3 times or did I pray 4 rak'ah? So your concentration has been also compromised. Slow to rise out of bed, or you find yourself hyper jumpy and engaging yourself to many, many activities. So it could go either way. So ask yourself these questions. If you answer yes to 2 or 3 or even 4 questions, my friend, you have been traumatized secondhand. So I'm going to share with you a couple of slides over here of signs and symptoms of secondhand trauma. I'm not going to go over them and read them because I already mentioned them in the questionnaires that I put across to you. But if you find yourself as you look at the slides and you say, you know, I do have mood swing, I do feel guilty, I am confused, and I am scared, but I don't know what I'm scared of. Okay, I might even have flashback after watching the news or listening to my friend experiencing what she or he has shared with me. So these are some of the symptoms. You're more angry than normal. Sometimes you have nightmares. Unable to concentrate. We talked about poor concentration, and socially withdrawn. And at time insensitivity to violence. Now, these symptoms are normal after being exposed to the trauma that we've been and the stresses around us. And I will share with you the sources of stresses. But I also want to share with you that I too have experienced some of these symptoms. In South Africa, I experienced these symptoms during the time I was invited to go to South Africa. I was invited to work with traumatized people in Johannesburg, Soweto, and Durban, and many other cities in South Africa who they have been traumatized by the apartheid for so long. So the delegates I went with was the ambassador, people-to-people ambassador. Together, I joined them, and there were about 75, 75 delegates All of them are mental health professionals from all over the world. And that is, we were there to facilitate the program of truth and reconciliation, to begin to listen to the story of people who've been traumatized and who were suffering for so long. We listened and we heard the pain and the suffering of young and old African people together, recounting their stories of atrocity, the rape, the killing of innocent children, the mutilation, and the marginalization that was afflicted on them. We were there for 1 week working with them nonstop. By the end of the week, I felt exhausted. I felt lethargic. I felt unmotivated. And at times, I felt unempathic to what I'm listening to, almost a shutdown. I asked myself, why am I feeling this way? I felt ashamed of myself for feeling those feelings and those symptoms. After all, I'm professional and I was there to help them. And I should not. I was shooting on myself a lot. Okay, I shouldn't feel this way. What I found out later was that most of the delegates were manifesting similar symptoms to that of the one I was experiencing. I was not alone. It was such a relief that I was not alone feeling my feelings. Our leader called for, for a meeting at the Kruger National Park for debriefing. We opened up to each other and began to express what we have heard and listen of the human pain and suffering that had bestowed upon the African people, that we become witness to their pain, which impacted us beyond our ability to bear it anymore. Others were attempting to deny their human frailty by claiming that we shouldn't, again, that should comes up. I shouldn't feel this way. We are all professional and we're there to help them. It took us almost 2 days of debriefing before we felt somewhat back to our normal selves. We all suffered from burnout, compassion fatigue, poor concentration, irritability from what we now call secondhand trauma. These symptoms are due to the overwhelming stress that we went through. So if any of you feeling any of these symptoms, they are normal responses to the crises we are witnessing. You are not alone, my friends. Let me take a look at, I'm talking about the stress. Let me define where are those stress coming from in our nation. So we're experiencing violence and lawlessness in our society. We went through for almost 2.5, 3 years of COVID epidemic stress. We are experiencing politics and lack of leadership, constant media coverage, war, invasion, and genocide. These are the sources of stress. Let me go through them. What are the violence and lawlessness that we're experiencing now? Just about every morning, we wake up hearing the media reporting a mass shooting on school and college campuses, in movies theater, in malls, libraries, nightclub, drive-by shooting. Warning all around us, be careful. Don't leave your car no matter what. Lock all your doors. Pay attention to your surrounding. Stores being robbed. Giant outlet stores are being closed because of all the stealing, and there's no legal consequences for these crimes committed. Nothing is safe, or at least that is what we are hearing. Nothing is safe. Is there any wonder why we are overloaded with stress? That's from as far as the violence and lawlessness. Let's take a look at what COVID had done to us. The COVID plight created a new culture. We had to deal with contradictory medical information, a new terminology we were introduced to. mask, vaccine, Zoom, Meetup app, WhatsApp app, working from home, shortage of medications, shortage of knowledge about the illness. Some MDs were so divided on the treatment, little or no recent research so that we can rely and trust. But the most damaging from psychological point of view affect us was a human interactions or the lack therefore of. Let me share this with you. This created deep fear, created anxiety, helplessness, depression, addiction, abuse, suicide, and regression. Suicide rate went skyrocketing, especially for young teenager being isolated. And what happened to us? Regression to childhood, childlike dependency. The unpredictability, uncertainty, and lack of accurate information developed from within us a vacancy and insecurity for most of us. We become wide open, vulnerable, and exposed to mental illness. The message was we are on our own, doing it alone. No comfort or assurance from our leaders or the authorities in the field. When the COVID cloud lifted, casual messages were disseminated to us. No need for mask anymore. Well, unless you choose to. Socialization is allowed. Going back to work or to school, go ahead. Visit your relative, even if they are sick and in the hospital. So it was in a cavalier sort of way that, the COVID is gone. No really explanation. You can even go back to school, go back to work. So part of it is we feel freedom again. Yet the aftermath of isolation indeed left a residue of fear and floating anxiety that we can't pin it down. And we ask, can we really trust and resume life as usual after all we've been through? Now, let's take a look at the politics. That's another source of stress. Now we turn our attention to our nation. Our nation is divided politically that we have never witnessed it to this extreme. We stand and watch slanders, attacks, and alleged criminal activities by our politicians running for leadership. We look for security and guidance, again, from our leaders, but there is none to comfort us and restore our trust. Let's take a look at how the stress of media coverage. Now we are exposed to the horrendous crime of the century, devastating and so disturbing as to what is happening to the Middle East and to our beloved Palestine and Gaza. And so when somebody said, did you hear? Did you know? You almost become hyper aroused and full of anxiety, and you're not even aware of it. We just got so used to this. The genocide, the invasion, the war, the bombing, the injustice, the starvation, the killing of civilian, over 31,000 of innocent people, women and children have been killed. And we stand by and we watch. Anger, rage, frustration, survival guilt, anxiety, depression, and other psychological and physiological symptoms aroused within us. But we resort once again to the feeling of powerlessness. We ask, what can I do and how can I help? We are living in a very tumultuous environment at this time, my friends. We are bombarded by the sensationalized news coverage and social media. We are inundated by threats, fear, danger, shock, horrific, violent events that invade the safety of our home. Even our home is not safe anymore because of the incoming horrendous information. The unpredictability again and the uncertainty around us leaves us vulnerable and wide open for speculation of doom and gloom. We interpret incoming information, it's the end. So our mind has been set for doom and gloom. We sit mindlessly listening to the endless disturbing reports, and we see no end in sight. All these crises can compromise our normal coping resources. The exposure to all these stressful events causes us to have a secondhand trauma. Secondhand trauma can affect us on many levels, such as on emotional, physical, and psychological level, which can cause a rift in our relationship. So, having talked about all these stressors that we are living through, let me share with you some intervention. I call it intervention 1, 2, and so on. The intervention and healing right now, it's very essential and important for all of us to utilize in order to heal as an individual as well as on collective level. Most of us are experiencing intolerable level of stress that has wreaked havoc on us mentally, physically, and psychologically. I am so grateful that the Islamic Education Center providing these webinars and this pioneer steps. It is so badly needed for our healing on individual as well as on collective level. So how do we deal with it all? Now, we have 4 basic human strategies to deal with the incoming overwhelming stress through our defense mechanism. That is to defend against all the stress that we are receiving. Some of these defense mechanisms may not be a healthy one. If you're using avoidance, denial, if you're suppressing your feeling or minimizing your feeling, this may not really be the healthiest way to handle it. What is the healthiest way and better defense mechanism? It's to acknowledge and accept our feeling. What we are feeling right now, it's normal. It's a reaction the body cannot tolerate, and we need to acknowledge it and accept it. Let me share with you, explain to you the dynamic, what is really happening to our body, our mind, okay, when we're experiencing distress. Kind of a lesson 101 in biology. I know most of you know it, familiar with it, but just in case you forgot it, let me share with you just the basics, what's happening. So when we are seeing or listening a stressful event, or we are listening to a friend sharing with them about their family back home, or they themselves have gone through a stressful event, and sharing this information, we are watching a traumatic scene on the media as well. Friends, we are experiencing empathy and feeling what they are feeling. It's almost like, the saying, we are walking in their shoes, if you will. We feel their sadness, we feel their anger and rage, and their helplessness as well at that time. We may not be aware what we're taking and internalizing what we're hearing. It may be weeks afterward that we feel that floating anxiety, the fear and the anger. This delay reaction confuses us. Why am I feeling this way? I'm fine. Everything is okay. I woke up feeling okay. So that confusion takes us to another level. SubhanAllah, when the brain senses, that's the biology, when the brain senses an incoming high level of stress, a chemical and an abnormal shift, a chemical and hormonal shift takes place in our brain. The brain then sends an alert signal into the body, get ready to defend against a threat. This shift of hormonal and chemical creates emotional reaction in the body. Do you see how the mind is connected to the body? The body experiencing an intense emotional reaction gets set off. It could be a sadness, could be anger, it could be fear, but there is an emotional reaction that's happening in our body. This triggers the defense mechanism that is created there to defend and to take action for fight, flight, or freeze. This is the miracle of the Creator, to equip us with defenses to preserve our integrity and our survival when we are receiving a threat or danger. It is absolutely amazing. It's a miracle what the body, between the mind and the body, and how it activates the mechanism to defend the integrity of the body. Unbelievable. So, the effect of secondhand trauma, as I said earlier, how does it affect the emotion? How does it affect the thinking and socialization? First and foremost, we need to acknowledge, like I said earlier, knowing and understanding, and it's the first step of recovery, so that you are not so confused. What's going on with me? What's wrong with me? Okay, so let's take a look at what's happening when we are stressed to our emotion. Let's take the emotion first. Emotional reaction, people, are vital sign for us to be aware of. It is there for protection. When we deny our emotion, we undermine the ability to motivate us to find a new way, a new approach, to expand our tolerance to deal with our emotion when we are upset. By denying, we're not acknowledging. The body stay frozen. God subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the emotion to help us become motivated and organized so we can take actions and remove ourselves from what is perceived as danger. So emotion is a signal, do something, okay? It's an action. If we feel fear, anger, sadness, or whatever emotion comes up for us, if we deny, if we avoid or suppress, they get stored. It doesn't go away. It does not go away, okay? Oops, did I skip that? Sorry, I lost my way here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so sadly, what happens when we are denying, avoiding, our psyche gets cluttered and compromised by our responses that one way of dealing with incoming signal. In other words, when we suppress it, it's going to clutter the psyche. Or we may convert those feelings, like, feeling of helplessness, into anger when we feel like, I need to do something, I need to move. So we convert the helplessness into anger. Yes, the anger, again, it's a healthy anger because it mobilizes us to move to safety. So when we're receiving the signal, if our anger, please listen to this one, my friend. If our anger is expressed in a healthy manner, we feel back in control because we move to a healthy solution. But if the anger expressed in an unhealthy way, like acting out our anger and our emotion in a violent outburst or physical abuse to other people around us, you are out of control. And this will result in a worse outcome feeling than before. So that's as far as our emotion. God, our Creator, gives us the emotion to give a signal to do something and to preserve the body. Another shift is happening is our way of thinking. When we are exposed to that high level of thinking and witnessing and listening to the news, our thinking becomes clouded with negativity and may distort the incoming information. The way we hear, the way we interpret the facts have been compromised again. And there have been a lot of research on traumatized brain, that there are so many holes in a traumatized brain that the healthy brain does not look like it. Okay, so if we are experiencing secondhand a trauma, our brain has been compromised and our interpretation has been also the way we interpret the news. We hear what we want to hear or think the way we want to think. So reality is no longer is true. So when we are anxious, I don't know about you, but when you are anxious and you are scared and somebody tell you, can you go and get me 1, 2, 3, you could only hear the first one, but you can't hear number 2 and number 3 because you're so hyper and so anxious, you can't hear it. Because our brain begin to process the information differently than when we are not traumatized. That's as far as our way of thinking. So what do we do with intervention number 2? We need to understand these changes in the biology of our body and our brain and our body. We can help improve our thoughts and our process. And I will share with you some tools on how to calm the brain and how to be able to begin to hear and think in a little bit more healthier way by identifying and recognize our negative thoughts. 1, we can reframe or replace with more positive way of thinking, which will lead us to a healthier emotional and behavioral response. And instead of thinking doom and gloom, we look for our faith. We look for a good support. We look for a positive way of interpreting the incoming news. They are standing solid and they are fighting back. They're not defeated. So I can reframe from gloom and doom, my way of thinking. Another way, we can do meditation, and we have our prayers, people. Our prayers is meditation. When you are turning to God and to your Creator, you are really talking to Him through your faith, and He is your sustainer. You do breathing. You take in for a 3-second in breathing, and you exhale it from your mouth as you are doing your prayers or your meditation. And please, when you do meditate, don't have high expectation that you're going to be sitting for half an hour doing meditation. Your brain is going faster than you want it to be. So to calm the brain, to reduce the stress, it's going to take some time, okay? Don't have high expectation that meditation is going to come just like that. Another tool that you could use, separating yourself from your thoughts. When I'm thinking doom and gloom, I can say to myself, these are my thoughts. That may not have reality to it. I'll examine my negative thoughts. I'll test them. They are my thoughts. They are not real. Examine them and find the reality. This will really calm you down rather than be listening to some satanic thoughts in your mind because of your fear and because of your anxiety. Now I talk about the emotion, I talk about the thinking. Now I'm going to talk about the behavior. Our behavior has resorted to isolation and avoidance as a way of dealing with life stress. Remember the COVID, stay 6 feet away from each other. Avoid the situation or event that may cause you stress. When I get excited, I get hiccup. The reason for the avoidance is most of our energy is invested in, remember, I said right now we are feeling hopeless, helpless. So our energy and invested in expressing those feelings, the intense feeling of anger, sadness, and fear. So we just can't handle all these emotion. We feel exhausted. Whoops, sorry. We feel exhausted. Thus, it is easier in a short term to isolate and avoid. But in the long term, negative consequences take place if we are utilizing the isolation and avoidance. So intervention number 3, reverting to avoidance can become a habit. And I don't know about you, but pattern of aftermath, it becomes so hard to break. And I don't know if you witness a baby or you have children or you have younger siblings, when we try to break them from a pacifier or a bottle, it takes a couple of weeks of consistency, okay? And only then they will let go of the bottle and the pacifier. Well, those patterns has been imprinted on our brain. Be careful, be careful, be careful. Avoid, avoid, avoid. So now we have a pattern to break. So most of the people to this day avoid going out. They go online shopping. It's much more preferred. If given an option, they prefer to work remotely. They prefer to stay home and have homeschool. And by the way, this is for adult as well as for young people. So overcoming these patterns is a necessary step for all of us to begin the healing. Another thing is learning how to maximize our work satisfaction, but minimize the stress. So instead of working 9, 10 hours because you feel, I've got to finish it, I've got to finish the work. No, stop when you're feeling the exhaustion. There is a tomorrow you can finish because you need to minimize your work stress. Because this will help you regulate and evaluate what your body is experiencing. It gets you in touch with what's happening. Another way of encouraging yourself to go out and instead of do shopping from home or work remotely is to establish a reward system. When you overcome paralyzation or powerlessness, you say, you know what? I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to go pick up my grocery rather than order it. Make sure you acknowledge that and you say, good job. Give yourself a reward, a pat on the back. You can give yourself treat yourself for a massage, an ice cream cone. I do shopping therapy, which helped me a lot. So that's some of the ideas that you could do to help yourself. Intervention number 4, building connection or rebuilding your relationship with your family and your friends are honestly, my friends, it is the cornerstone to healing because we are social beings and COVID epidemic caused us to fear one another, not to be close. Somebody sneezed, it used to be, God bless you, Gesundheit, Rahimakallah. Some people said, why are you outside? What's wrong with you? Shouldn't you be at home? And we roll our eyes and we give them that rejection feeling. So that's still within us. Learning to extend, and I'm going to underscore that. We are so compassionate people to others, but not to ourselves. That's why we have compassion fatigue, because we're listening and we're internalizing. Be compassionate to yourself. That is really important. We are in California and we have beautiful weather, beautiful environment around us. This will help you have an outing or something that you will enjoy. If you have a hobby, get back to it. If you play music, get back to that one as well. Call a friend. It's really very important. Community support, as we are doing with the Islamic Education Center, it's very vital at this point. It's very important for us to educate ourselves, mobilizing, activating, supporting with adherence to cultural and religious beliefs. Like these webinars being provided help us to know that we are not alone. My friends, take these opportunities and educate others. People are longing for information. Share your valuable knowledge about the Middle East, what is happening around us in our nation, as well as on international, especially in Palestine and Gaza. There is such a need for openness. I'll share something with you, really funny. It happened a long time ago. I call it the camel story. When I came to this country, I was working at Western University in Canada, and I had a professor who was talking to me, and he asked me, "Where are you from?" So I told him, "I'm from Baghdad, Iraq." "Oh my God, Baghdad, Iraq. Oh, that's where the Taj Mahal is." So I didn't say anything. "No, the Taj Mahal is in India." "Oh, yeah, that's right. So when you went to school, did you go on a camel?" And I said, I looked at him, here's a professor. I wasn't sure to be upset or to just take the opportunity to educate. I went kind of sarcastically. I said, "You know what? I come from a very wealthy family, and my father provided a camel with air condition." It was funny, but then he opened up and he said, "Oh, okay, you're making fun of me. Did you not have a camel?" So that gave me an opportunity to educate him where Baghdad is and where Iraq is, and where the Taj Mahal, by the way, is. So let's take a look at our journey of healing. The good news is all these symptoms, my friends, are treatable and recovery is achievable. So here is our help. It's on the way. The journey to healing, we all need to begin to reestablish. What do we need to reestablish? To provide safety for ourselves, to surround ourselves with the trusting people, to get back in control by trusting yourself. Get a support. We have support all around us with everything is happening. The education we're providing and the webinars, and empowering yourself by taking and empowering actions. And I'll talk about it a little bit later. What are some of the tools? First and foremost, cut down on watching the news to no more than 1 hour a day. Choosing a reliable source of news and avoid sensationalized and propaganda information. Please remember that, my friends, because all you're sitting is taking in information that is so toxic. Tool number two, which I call it ACT, which is accept your symptoms as normal reaction to what is happening. Understanding the connection between your mind and the body is vital to an overall healing process. Learning to pay attention to the messages your body is sending. Take time and practice, but it must be acknowledged. Improving your sleep, your eating habit, exercising, nutrition habit will also help a great deal. Number 3, tools. I love these tools because it gives what I call the AAA. AAA is awareness, acknowledgement, and then move to action. When you become aware of what we talked about, your behavioral changes reported by others, when you're saying to yourself, "I'm not feeling like myself," become aware of it. Acknowledge them. Don't get angry at yourself for what you're feeling. Because if you're feeling frequent illness, digestive problem, restlessness, or sleep disturbance, acknowledge it. This is my reaction. This is how I am experiencing my stress. Say it out loud. Journal about it. Call a friend. Tell them what you're going through. It's okay. Mental illness is just as important to be acknowledged as it is physical. Okay, when you say I have mental illness such as anxiety or depression, it's just like saying I have digestive problem. Don't be ashamed that you think, oh, I'm not crazy because I have mental illness. I am here to let you know mental illness is legitimate as it is physical illness. We need to understand because the brain and the mind working together. After that, move to action. God knows right now we have so much need for volunteering, participating in demonstration, reflect your demonstration that reflects your values. Call your representative, call the White House, join an advocacy group and associate with nonprofit organization. Oops. Number 4. Tool number 4, we call it the traffic light tool. Which district are you in? Are you in the red light? Are you in the yellow light? Are you in the green light? That is in your body. Where are you feeling your stress, your anger, your rage, your violence? When you are in the red, it's time for you to begin your healing, your meditation, your prayer, your faith, whatever you could do. Because if you act on those feelings, it's going to become worse than what you're experiencing. Yellow light, it may recognize you are frustrated. You are irritable with all the media incoming information. And making a decision, what can you do about it? Because you have very low energy. If you are in the green light, that's when you become to join your demonstration or volunteer, whatever you could do. I did this for myself this week, what we call the opposite behaviors. I resisted going out. I did not want to go out, even though the weather is beautiful. And every part of me is like, oh no, I have to change. I have to wash my face and go out and, meet people. I really don't want to do that. I resisted that. I said, that's only my thought. It will help me to go out and be exposed to people. I accepted an invitation. Somebody, my neighbors said, you're invited for St. Patrick's party. Come on over. Normally, it's like, how could I go to a party? I resisted that thought and I said yes. I don't know how that's going to be, but I was proud of myself to say yes, then no. And of course, tool number 6, professional help is available for those who have been directly affected by the harsh circumstances at this time. I'd like to share with you prayers that I was able to find to help what we're going through. Using prayers, dua means subligation, to have patience, victory, success, protection when facing the enemy, and strengthen our trust in our God, Allah. I'm sending this to the Palestinian people and to those who are afflicted by the pain and the suffering, be it here or there. When we are faced with the tragedies and intensity, it feels difficult to retain hope and optimism. We may be wondering why we aren't seeing the relief that we've been so intensely praying for. This feeling is entirely natural. We must remind ourselves that it is precisely at this time of our utter depletion and despair that the help of Allah is nearest. It is precisely when we feel exhausted of all worldly solutions that His aid is most eminent, and we truly begin to depend to Allah for our way. So that's what you're telling yourself when you're running out of patience, when you're losing faith. Remember these prayers that I'm going to share with you. In the Holy Quran, chapter 12, verses 86 and 87, Prophet Jacob answered his children, "It is only to God that I complain of my deep grief and my sorrow, for I know from God something that you do not know. Do not lose hope of God's life-giving mercy. Verily, none but God's people who deny the truth can ever lose hope of God's life-giving mercy." My friends, never lose hope in the help of God. Fear not, because God said is as close to us as our jugular vein. Do not give up on God's mercy. God again said, "Ask me, I will answer you." When I read these dua and these prayers, I was searching the Quran for a chapter that just kind of touches my heart and where I'm at after writing this presentation. It truly centered me, and I kept reading it over and over and over again. It truly gave me some peace to know that my faith can sustain me. So there is a dua here for the people who are suffering in Gaza and Palestine, all over the place. We ask our Lord, shower them with perseverance, make their steps firm, and give them victory over the disbelieving people. Our Lord, grant them the good of this world and the hereafter, and protect them from the torment of the fire. O Allah, conceal their faults, calm their fears, and protect them from before them and behind them, from their right and from their left, and from above them. O Allah, the revealer of the Holy Book, and the swift in reckoning, and the mover of the clouds, and the defeater of the clans, defeat them and shake them, and grant us victory over them. O Allah, grant them true reliance upon you and good thoughts about you. I thank you, my friends, for attending, and for my dearest Erica, who's been working with me and providing her care, her kindness, her knowledge as far as technology. I truly appreciate it. I thank the Islamic Education Center for providing this opportunity to share and to comfort one another as an individual and as community collectively. And I thank you so much, and I hope I didn't take too long.
No,
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.
thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf-Rope, for this enlightening and beautiful teaching. May Allah bless you and your loved ones with a blessed Ramadan. And we hope to see all of you in our nightly Ramadan program, which begins at 8 p.m. each night, either in person at the Islamic Center, Southern California, or virtually on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And I want to thank everyone for watching, and especially thank you so much, dear Dr. Ilham Al-Sarraf, for your beautiful words and beautiful enlightening presentation that I know we all benefited from. And thank you very much, and may Allah bless all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May God's peace and blessings be upon you.
Thank you very much.